re-review. So today we have a very, very, very special movie to talk about. One that I hold very near and dear to myself, and I'm sure many Godzilla fans hold very near and dear to themselves. Today I'll be talking about the final Godzilla movie directed by Jun Fukuda, for better or for worse, it kind of depends on your taste. And a far superior film to this franchise's predecessor. Oh my god. Today I'll be talking about 1974's classic Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Yes, indeed. And joining me is none other than Jackie Boy himself, BigJackFilms. Make your big grand entrance, boy.
Well, this is a Oscar compared to Godzilla's Revenge. All I gotta say about this fucking movie is, fuck yes.
Yes, I still think that Godzilla's Revenge is just slightly better than this movie, but that's just me. Right, Sean? But yes, indeed, the original Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla we are talking about today. So, Jackie Boy, what is your history with this movie?
Well, this was one of the very first original Godzilla movies I ever saw. This
Good
is one of the
introduction.
ones that I actually constantly rented at Blockbuster Video back in the day on VHS, and I fucking love this movie. This is hands down one of my favorite Godzilla movies of all time. Definitely, probably in the top 5. It is a fun, non-stop film, and I love every minute of it. It is like it's the perfect balance between campy and serious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like if Marvel made a Godzilla movie, essentially, from my perspective. That kind of, it's fun, it's campy, but it can also be a little dark in places. But
and Terror Mechagodzilla as if DC made a Godzilla movie.
Pretty much.
So yes, indeed. Is that all to your history, or do you have more to say?
Yeah, I just remember I remember renting it a lot at Blockbuster. It was one of my favorites, and it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I kind of have the same history myself. This, actually, if you really want to go back to it, this was the third Godzilla movie I ever saw when I was a kid, not counting the original, or not original, excuse me, not counting the 1998 Godzilla movie.
That was actually that was me too, because I saw the ones I saw were 1998, King Kong versus Godzilla, and Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Those are the 3 I watched.
I did not see this movie in my vaguest. Yes, I know my nose is sunburnt. Please, excuse that. But my vaguest memory of watching this movie was, I was with my mom and we were visiting a friend of hers at the time, and I distinctly remember seeing 2 clips of 2 Godzilla movies on TV. One was the original Mothra versus Godzilla, and the scene that I remember watching was when Godzilla rose out of the ground. Get off your goddamn phone, Jack.
No, I'm just texting somebody. I'm listening.
And the second scene was the scene from this movie when fake Godzilla was fighting the real Godzilla. And I remember as a kid, that absolutely blew my mind, because I remember seeing a commercial for Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee on TV, and I remember seeing a Godzilla that breathed red atomic breath. And technically, the first of the actual Godzilla series I ever saw was Godzilla 2000. So I was aware that Godzilla had both a red and blue atomic ray, and as a kid, seeing 2 Godzillas fight, that made me think, oh my god, there's a Godzilla versus Godzilla movie out there. Wasn't until then, of course, years later. I think it was maybe 9 or 10 years later when I was able to use the internet and go on YouTube and see some clips of Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. And then the pinnacle day was the first time I ever went to Blockbuster. I was scouring around looking for a movie to watch, And then I stumbled across Blockbuster's Godzilla section. And that absolutely blew my fucking mind. And the first one that I rented was, of course, the 50th anniversary edition of the original Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Of course. And so I took it home, and let me tell you something. This movie wasn't just watching a movie. It was an experience.
Yes, it was. It is an experience. It's a fun ride. It's a very fun ride.
To quote Zazubar, it's a bottle full of awesome. This movie kicks so much ass, it's not even funny. To me, I mean, I love Godzilla vs. Gigan and Godzilla vs. Ghidorah, and admittedly, I do like those movies a little more than this. But I think Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 74 is the peak and greatest of campy 70s Godzilla, without a complete shadow of a doubt.
Hands down. Hands fucking down. This movie is a blast.
Yes.
Like, we can't praise enough. It is one of the best Godzilla movies, hands down. Mm-hmm. One of the best.
Mm-hmm. So, before I get into the plot, I want to go into a little bit of history with this film. Admittedly, I don't know that much, but this is something I do know for sure. So, obviously, as we all know, Toho at this time was in deep trouble. Because TV was killing the movie business at the time. And Toho was just going steeper and steeper and steeper and steeper into shit territory. Oh, KPF is here. Hi, KPF.
Hey, KPF. How you doing,
man? So Toho was getting pretty desperate at this point, and as Godzilla vs. Megalon being the complete ideological profile of shit cinema that Toho was steadily approaching towards. However, Toho was saved in 1973 when they released a little movie called The Submersion of Japan. And that movie was a gargantuan success, both in Japan and overseas. I believe it was Japan's first big disaster movie. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it later went on to inspire, what was his name? Charlton Heston's Earthquake.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Wait, when did Earthquake come out?
77, I believe.
No, it wasn't 77. It was before that. It was before Jaws. I think it was like 71, actually.
Hold up. Let's look. Let's look. '74. Okay.
Yeah, so they can't around the same time.
Well, I still would not be surprised if Submerge of Japan went on to inspire Earthquake. But actually, let's look that up too.
Yeah, this movie's fucking awesome. Like, I will admit, it is a great, fun movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Here, I'll give some history. So, basically, I think, yeah, because that movie was such a huge hit. So now when 1974 comes around, it's Godzilla's 20th anniversary. And Toho decides, we're done doing campy, we're done cutting the bullshit, we want to go back to making Godzilla not only back to being a massive force of destruction, but we still want to keep him a hero. Like, we still want to keep him a hero at the same time. So, basically, they come up with the concept, let's do the classic cliche of the evil duplicate. Actually, no, this is probably one of the first films and franchises or series or something to do what I call the evil duplicate cliche.
Not counting King Kong Escapes.
The evil duplicate the evil duplicate cliche, it's one of my all-time favorite cliches, which is one of the reasons I love this movie. Because I always like it when the hero fights a clone or a robot version of himself. And, you know, it's been done countless times. In fact, I'll put a little reference here. In, I think it was like 99 or 2000, Nickelodeon produced a two-part TV special, which was called Rugrats Runaway Reptar. And now everybody knows Reptar is an obvious tribute to Godzilla. Well, in the episode, it starts with Reptar being evil. The kids find out about it, and then it turns out to be a robot duplicate, and then they find the real Reptar. It is a huge, like, from the bad dubbing to the villain to all that stuff, it is a wonderful nod to Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. That's the impact this film had, that it's able to inspire the writers at Nickelodeon to do a whole episode dedicated to it. But just put the Rugrats in there.
Well, anyway, going back to Submersion of Japan, technically it's called Tidal Wave, but it is also known as Submersion of Japan. It was the highest grossing film in both 1973 and 1974 in Japan. And of course, it was a big success overseas. So in American money, it had a budget of $3 million, and its box office was about $7 million in Japan, at least at the time. Which I'm sure that was quite a bit. At least in Japanese money, that's quite a bit. So, Submersion Japan was a giant success, and it was able to save Toho for a little while from going under, and it allowed Toho to kind of funnel some more effort and funnel some more funds into another Godzilla movie. So, of course, yes, they decided to, you know what? Let's do something a little different. So Tomiki Tanaka came up with the idea to make essentially Godzilla versus himself. So Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla was directed by Jun Fukuda. The screenplay was written by both Jun Fukuda and Hiroyasu Yamamura, this being his only Godzilla movie he's written, at least to my knowledge. But the story was also done by Shinichi Sekizawa and Masami Fukushima. I've never heard of him. This is my first time hearing of him. And it was released March 21st, 1974. And to my knowledge, at least, this movie was a pretty damn big success, both in Japan and overseas, of course, leading to the Americans redubbing the film Godzilla vs. the Cosmic Monster and Godzilla vs. the Bionic Monster for some fucking reason. Anyway, so with all that out of the way, let's get into the plot of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, shall we?
Yes.
Alright, so strange events are taking place all throughout Okinawa, the Japanese island of Okinawa. An Azumi priestess has a vision of a city being destroyed by some kind of giant monster. Though, of course, this being Toho still using a little bit of stock footage. It's Ghidorah, Manda, Rodan, and there's a third monster. There's a fourth monster there too. Anguirus. Okay, maybe it is Anguirus.
Yeah.
So she has a vision of a city being destroyed by some giant monster. And then, not long after, a strange type of metal, which is not found on Earth, is discovered in a cave by Masahiko Shimizu, who is what's known as a spelunker, which I have no idea what that is. And he takes it to a Professor Miyajima, played by Akihiko Hirata, for examination. And an excavation led by Shimizu's brother, Kesuke, accidentally uncovers a chamber that is filled with old ancient artifacts and a mural which bears an ominous prophecy. When a black mountain appears above the clouds, Yes, KPF. How can you not see this movie, KPF? Seriously.
Wait, he's never seen this movie?
Apparently.
KPF, stop watching this live stream, find a torrent of it or something, and watch one of the best goddamn Godzilla movies you will ever see. Get your ass off this stream and go watch it right now.
What he said. Anyway, so the prophecy reads, when a black mountain appears above the clouds, a huge monster will arise and try to destroy the world. But when the red moon sets and the sun rises in the west, 2 more shall appear to save humanity. I love that prophecy.
That's a great prophecy. Hey, it's better than something like, oh, I've encountered a vergence in the Force. Or, oh, Harry Potter is the chosen one. As much as prophecies are prophecies, at least they didn't essentially say Godzilla is the chosen one. They didn't go that far. They didn't make Godzilla Jesuszilla. Wrong Messiah.
Okay, so Keisuke is then joined by archaeologist Saiko Kaneshiro, who translates this prophecy and takes one of the artifacts, which bears the likeness of the legendary kaiju, quote unquote, King Caesar, and she takes these to study. However, they are stalked by 2 men, and one of whom speaks to them, claims to be a reporter interested in the story of the mural, and the other attempts to steal the statue from them, but fails in the process. Now, rather pretty entertaining scene. And before long, the first sign of the prophecy appears in the form of a giant black cloud that appears in the sky that looks like a big mountain. And then Godzilla, or so it seems, wink wink, emerges from Mount Fuji and begins to go on a massive rampage, despite the fact that it had become tolerant of humans within the last few years. And Anguirus shows up, clearly seeing that this is not Godzilla, confronts it only to be nearly killed King Kong style by having his jaw ripped open.
Finish him.
And Anguirus retreats soon after. However, not before Anguirus can inflict a wound that exposes something shiny and metallic underneath Godzilla's skin on his arm. Keisuke arrives shortly after to make sure that his brother and the professor, who is actually revealed to be his uncle, are out of harm's way, and they discover another sample of this strange metal. This professor also being played by... Oh shit, what was his name?
Can't remember off the top of my head.
Hiroshi Koizumi. This wasn't his last Godzilla movie. I think that was Tokyo SOS. Anyway, so they discover another sample of this strange metal, which the professor, played by Akihiko Hirata, discovers this metal to be what is known as space titanium. Though this leads to a pretty cringy line in the dub, I will admit. Space titanium? You mean it's from outer space? No, that's why it's called space titanium.
No! What gave you that idea?
So, while this is going on at night, Godzilla's rampage continues at a oil refinery until another Godzilla arrives out of a factory building and begins to fight the other Godzilla.
Yeah.
And after a brief fight, the challenger is revealed to be the true Godzilla, and while the other turns out to be a robotic doppelganger with advanced weaponry.
A Mechagodzilla.
Shut up! You ruined it. A robotic doppelganger armed with advanced weaponry in pseudo disguise as Godzilla, of course, we now know as Mechagodzilla. Though I will admit there is one minor flaw that I have with this movie is that when Godzilla shows up out of the building at the refinery, this is when we first see the aliens from the simians. That's the first scene that we see them, and they just show up.
Now,
who are these guys?
Here's the thing, too. When that scene happens, when those two are fighting, and then obviously the metal is revealed, and then you realize it's an imposter, out comes probably the best fucking line, my favorite line in the entire movie, and that's when the head of the aliens looks at the monitors and says, "Damn you, Godzilla. You're mistaken if you think your powers are a match for Mechagodzilla." I love that line.
Dun, dun, dun,
it's so cheesy,
dun, 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 dun.
I love it. She's like, "Damn you, Godzilla.
You're mistaken if you think your powers are a match for Mechagodzilla."
I love that line. I don't know why. I love that. That's probably one of the best lines in any Godzilla movie. Like if you were to do the top 10 greatest lines from all the movies, that's one of the best.
Yep.
I fucking love that.
Alrighty,
line.
so after Mechagodzilla's disguise is intentionally burnt off, the two engage in a admittedly kind of short battle. But the real Godzilla is severely wounded, but he does manage to inflict some damage on the machine, and both monsters retreat hastily in the process. Miyajima hypothesizes that based on Mechagodzilla's advanced weaponry, and also him being more than likely composed of space titanium, that the robot is an alien superweapon. Which, even though Mechagodzilla 2 is my favorite version of Mechagodzilla, this is my favorite version. Not version, but this is like personality-wise, this is my favorite version of Mechagodzilla. An evil doppelganger used for bad. Admittedly, using Mechagodzilla as a weapon for good, while I do also like that, I want to see a bad Mechagodzilla again.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So anyway,
I agree. Like, I mean, I do like the concept, especially when you get to like the Millennial series, where he starts designed to be good, but because he has the DNA structure of the original, he becomes evil. It's out of the human's control. That was a relatively good idea.
So Keisuke and Psycho take the statue of King Caesar via cruise ship back to the temple in Okinawa. However, they are confronted by the same thief from earlier once again. However, during the ensuing fight, the stranger's head is wounded, and the skin on half of his face melts away to reveal him being very ape-like, just with green skin and black hair.
They're basically the same makeup look as the Planet of the Apes films, except really a lot cheaper.
Yes. And of course, with the Planet of the Apes movie, the original Planet of the Apes series having ended just 1 year earlier, and apparently the Planet of the Apes were big in Japan at the time. It's understandable, but anyway, so the intruder attempts to kill Keisuke. However, a bullet from an unseen gunman kills him and propels him overboard. Keisuke and the Psycho, they then catch a brief glimpse of this reporter from earlier once again. However, he slinks away quickly. And meanwhile, Godzilla arrives on Monster Island during a thunderstorm, and in one of my favorite scenes in the entire Godzilla franchise, he is struck by lightning multiple times, and he is seemingly reinvigorated, with Godzilla roaring multiple times, and he eventually reaches his climax with the longest roar possible, and then he finally is just exploding with sparks and fire going all over the place. It's like he's hulking out. Love that scene.
It's great. It's fucking great.
So Masahiko Miyajima and his daughter Ikuko, let's call him Ika, or call her Iko, go to explore the cave where the space titanium was first found, and they are captured by technically they are called aliens of the third planet from the black hole, However, I think Simians is a much more A, it rolls off the tongue much better, and B, I think it's much more fitting because they are simian-like. And they plan to use Mechagodzilla to conquer Earth. Cue the scene from Street Fighter the movie. Of course!
Of course, of course. And no one should fuck a horse, of course. That is, of course, unless the horse is the famous Mr. Ed! Nay!
And their leader, Kuronoma, who is played by Goro Mutsumi, who would reprise a similar role in the next movie, just without the ridiculous getup and the bruised eye. Let's see. Shit. Oh yeah. Kuronoma forces Miyajima to repair Mechagodzilla, him earning the Nobel Peace Prize in robotics. Again, of course. And while Psycho checks into a hotel and guards the statue, Keisuke goes to meet his brother at the caves, and instead he encounters this reporter character who explains that his name is Nanbara, and he is actually an Interpol agent who has been tracking the Simians and believed Keisuke to be connected to them. Of course, he's not. But Nanbara and Keisuke infiltrate the Simians' base, and they free the prisoners, of course. The team then splits up with Miyajima, Nanbara, and Masaiko, returning to the alien base and deliberately getting recaptured by Kuronoma.
Is that when the line comes in? Is that the line where he says, "I'm going back inside to take care of those bastards"?
I believe so, yes.
I love that line too.
And while Keisuke and Iko pick up Psycho and the statue from the hotel, they then head to Okinawa. In the early hours of the morning, a lunar eclipse results of the sun rising in the west. And the team realizes that the time has come to awaken King Caesar. Oh yeah, King Caesar is in this movie. They meet with the Izumi priestess and her grandfather, who, after a brief struggle with some simian agents, placed the statue on a platform in the temple, revealing the monster's resting place, which fires a red laser beam at a cliff face and explodes, of course, revealing King Caesar. However, Kuronoma dispatches Mechagodzilla, and in probably one of the most infamous scenes in all of Showa Godzilla, the Izumi priestess sings a song that awakens King Caesar, and once he wakes up with a big explosion, of course, Godzilla appears shortly afterwards.
Well, very quickly, I wanted to point out too, when King Caesar awakens, and it's interesting, I noticed this now, but all his roars are just King Kong's roar.
I think they're more fitting for King. Well, they're not the same exactly. They're much more growly and guttural, but yes, they are King Kong's roars.
Ain't that funny? So you wonder if King Kong and King Caesar had ever battled each other. That would be a good movie.
That'd be interesting. And also, as Sean just said, Godzilla's entrance once again, as he erupts from the ocean, he slowly comes up the cliff face, and he's just roaring and roaring and roaring, like pumping.
He rises out of the water, and he's just like arms up like this. He's just like,
and it's like he's pumping himself up for a rematch with Mechagodzilla. Awesome entrance.
But can I play too?
The three monsters get engaged in a spectacular fight scene, which is just so goddamn entertaining. However, they are no match for Mechagodzilla's vast array of weapons. Eye lasers, mouth missiles, finger missiles, toe missiles, knee missiles, a chest laser. Mechagodzilla has it all.
A lot of rainbow laser beams, I think.
Yes, out of his eyes. Anyway, however, eventually after...
I guess you could say his eyes are filled with pride.
Eventually, Godzilla uses the electricity stored in his body from all the lightning that he had accumulated to create a magnetic field, which absolutely shocks Kuronoma.
Mine was better.
Godzilla then creates a magnetic field that ensnares the robot, and Godzilla then proceeds to twist off Mechagodzilla's head and break it off, destroying the monster in the process. He certainly didn't give Mechagodzilla a heads up for that idea, huh?
My joke was better.
And this entire world domination plot just blew up in their faces.
Yeah, they're just like, well, shit, let's go. Fuck this.
And while the mortified aliens are distracted, Nambara and the others free themselves from their binds, kill their captors just like that, and sabotage the base, fleeing it as it burns to the ground and collapses upon itself. So with the enemy defeated, Godzilla heads back out to sea, and King Caesar returns to his resting place, being pretty fucking useless during this entire movie. While the heroes rejoice. And the movie ends kind of abruptly, but whatever. So how about this plot?
It's fucking awesome!
God damn, is it epic. This plot is so freaking bad motherfucking ass. You could not ask for a better Godzilla plot, a better Godzilla alien invasion plot, a better kaiju plot, a better James Bond-esque espionage type plot. You could not ask for a better plot. So with that being said, let's move on to the pros. For me, pro number one being, of course, this movie's plot. This movie's story is so well thought out. It's so original. Every single scene feels important to the overall story, including this.
Was this a hit? Was this a huge hit when it came out?
I believe it was, yes.
Good, because this was a good movie.
Sorry.
Couple things I liked about this film. One, I felt it was well paced, well edited, well shot. It looks great. The Godzilla suit, it's one of my favorite suit designs, honestly. Like, it is one of my personal favorites. And, like, when I think hero Godzilla, like the hero version that he's savior of the planet, this is the suit I think of instantly. Now, I know technically it did kind of show up in Godzilla versus Megalon, but I felt like
it's really the same suit. It's the same suit body-wise. They just changed the head a little bit.
Now, here's something funny. I feel like when they built the duplicate suit, they just reused the one from the previous movies. They just, like, fixed it up and blew it up afterwards.
They might have, but I'm not really sure. I couldn't give you that answer.
Yeah, but it was that. The music's great. It kicks ass. Like, the music is pure 70s, 60s, 70s camp music. Like,
and it's awesome.
I know you're not a fan of it, but this kind of music would fit perfectly into, like, a 60s James Bond or even the 60s Batman show. It has that vibe to it, which I love. The villains are great in this movie. Like, I love how the goose, the main one with the cigar, he's always
Kuronoma.
Yeah, he's fucking great. He is something out of a Bond movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hell, you know what? I know people have a problem with that song the priestess sings. Fuck, I love that song. That sounds good. I like that song. You know, I'm sure it goes on a little too long, but I think it's kind of...
And just when you think it's over, she starts fucking singing again. KPF sent you a message on Twitter.
Nutty? Oh, God. But it's just a fucking brilliant movie. I fucking love every minute of it. I can't get enough of it.
Yep, agreed. So anyway, is that all the good things you have to say about this movie?
Pretty much.
Oh, wait, hang on. I just found something out. Oh, that's a shame.
What?
Apparently, this movie only made slightly more money than Godzilla vs. Megalon, but was still not making as big as a box office profit as the other films in the Godzilla series. That's a shame. That's a shame.
God damn it!
Well, you do know that Terror Mechagodzilla is to this day the lowest grossing Godzilla movie ever made.
Oh, Christ. Right when it gets good, they decide, nope.
Anyway,
Okay.
so still, let's see. So we already talked about the plot. Pro number one is the fantastic story. Pro number two is the characters. All the characters are great.
Yeah, really good. Even that one old dude who's like, "Oh, Godzilla!"
I could have done without him.
I will admit too, this is probably one of the most quotable Godzilla movies I've done.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
I probably quote the most.
I will admit, at times the dub for this movie isn't great, but also at times it's really good. But anyway, that's.
Oh, very quickly, one other most quotable Godzilla. Two more quotable Godzilla lines in all the franchise from Godzilla vs. Gigan. You're a hard bitch. I love that one.
Bitch.
And then there's the one from Godzilla's Revenge. You know, Godzilla says that I should learn to fight my own battles. No. Those
You just had to go there, didn't you?
Series. But yeah, it is a very Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla is a very quotable movie. I fucking love it. And you know this too, it's like, even having Anguirus there was a nice little addition. Because at that point he was kind of Godzilla's best buddy. You know, he wasn't hanging around with like fucking Mothra anymore and shit. You know? And that's the thing, I like how they brought Anguirus back a little bit more.
They only brought Anguirus back because they had a perfectly good Anguirus costume that was still usable, because Anguirus was originally supposed to be Baragon.
Yeah, I knew that. And they were supposed to be the same thing in Destroy All Monsters. He was supposed to be attacking Anguirus, but they replaced him with Gorosaurus.
Shamefully.
Which, by the way, I have to point out a major problem with the Toho Showa series. So Gorosaurus, obviously, his first appearance was in King Kong Escapes. And in that movie, King Kong's supposed to be smaller than the other kaiju. So he's supposed to be, what, 50 feet tall or something like that?
He's 20 meters in King Kong Escapes.
Same thing with Gorosaurus. But then, in Destroy All Monsters, he's like as tall as Godzilla. You're like, what the hell happened there?
Maybe it was Gorosaurus' parents from King Kong Escapes.
Well, I guess you could make the argument that Gorosaurus, I mean, he didn't really die in King Kong Escapes. He probably just had a seizure. From the looks of it, he had a seizure. But I guess, like, over the course of, from that movie till 1999, he grew about the same size as Godzilla, so that would kind of make sense.
You could also say it was just another member of the species that just so happened to grow larger because he was exposed to radiation.
Well, there's never been a point where Gorosaurus was exposed to radiation. Being
around the monsters who are radioactive, that counts as being exposed to radiation. Anyway, so moving on.
He grew over the course of time. It's kind of like how Kong is in the new movies.
Yeah. So moving on. All the characters in this movie are great. All of them are really, well, 99% of them are good. God damn it. Sorry. Okay, there we go. Masaki Daimon as Keisuke Shimizu. He's really good, even though he gets captured a little too much for my taste, but he's still really good. Kazuya Oyama as Masahiko Shimizu. He's really good. He's a very likable protagonist. He's very proactive when things are in a tight spot, and he seems like the type of guy who's very good at thinking on his feet, which is cool. Akihiko Hirata as Professor Miyajima. Fantastic. I think this is one of his most underrated performances, in my opinion.
Wait, does this one have Akira Takarada at all?
No, actually, Akira Takarada hasn't been in a Godzilla movie since Sea Monster. and won't be in another Godzilla movie until Mothra 92.
Well, technically, wasn't he in Godzilla Tokyo SOS? I can't remember.
No, that was Hiroshi Koizumi.
Okay, it was I think
he was in Final Wars too.
He was in a deleted scene for 2014, I found out, and he was also technically he was in Godzilla Battle Royale, but that doesn't count.
That's not an official Godzilla movie, but anyway.
Yeah, but he was still in it, which is cool.
Anyway, so Akihiko Hirata, he's really good as Professor Miyajima. Hiroshi Koizumi as Professor Wagura, he's the likable uncle type, but he's also clearly very intelligent too. It's just a shame he's not in this movie very much. And the rest of the supporting cast, Shin Kishida as Nanbara, the Interpol agent, he's really badass. He's one of my favorite badass characters in the Godzilla series. He's very handy.
Is he the one that's like the big kind of spy?
He's the one who says, "I'm gonna go back inside and take care of those bastards."
He's like Aragorn if he was Japanese.
He's a badass. He's very handy with the pistol.
We need one of those again in a Godzilla movie, I think.
Agreed. And the rest of the supporting cast, they're all pretty decent. Though I will admit, the Izumis, they're just kind of there. They don't really leave much of a lasting impression on me. And their dubs aren't very good, especially for the old man. His dub is terrible.
Oh, Godzilla!
It's too much of the like stereotypical old man wheezy struggle voice. Yes. Exactly, just like that.
There's my old man for you.
And as for the monster performances, Isao Zushi as Godzilla, great job. Fantastic job. This is definitely a Godzilla that means business. Like, is no fucking around when it comes to fighting this guy. Kazunari Mori as Mechagodzilla, fantastic. He definitely moves like a robot, but he also moves like a sentient monster robot.
So I might say, "Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto." I thank you.
I knew you were going to say that. Kurisakate, arigato gozaimashita.
You speak Japanese?
A little. And Satoru Kuzumi as both Anguirus and King Caesar. He does a decent job as King Caesar. I mean, his performance as Anguirus is just okay. And that's just because Anguirus is just okay in this movie. But King Caesar, he definitely gives King Caesar his own performance. I just wish King Caesar was executed better. But I'll get that in a minute.
Honestly, come to think of it, you know what would have been great? I mean, I love King Caesar, don't get me wrong. But wouldn't it have been a great surprise if it turned out to be King Kong? And then King Kong and Godzilla team up to fight Mechagodzilla? That would have been amazing. That would have actually been kind of cool.
Maybe that's what they'll do for Godzilla vs. Kong in 2020.
Yes! That or they... See, I've always thought they should do Mechagodzilla and they should do Gigan. They should fight Gigan together. That would be cool.
So anyway, moving on. Pro number 3 is the pacing for this film. It's very well done. I used to think that it was pretty poor, honestly. But upon this most recent rewatching, I came to find out that it's paced a lot like a spy movie. And spy movies are paced usually kind of slower, but that lets you get yourself enthralled in the story, and that lets you get interested in the characters and such. So the slower pace does kind of work for this movie. However, during the action scenes, it's spectacularly paced. It's very entertaining in the process because of that. So this movie's pretty well paced. Pro number 4, the Simians. The Simians are awesome. hang on, let me just pull this up a little bit. You still there, Jack?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. The simians are awesome. They're very threatening. They're very intimidating. Especially the guy who plays Goro Mutsumi as Kuronoma. Total scumbag. Total and complete scumbag. As a way of coaxing the professor into helping them, they throw him, his daughter, and Keisuke into a room that is slowly made to be much hotter than room temperature. Like the temperature just goes up and up and up and up and up and up and up. Really? That's what you're going to do? You're going to incinerate / boil somebody to death just because you won't get what you want? And he has no qualms with pulling a gun on the professor and his daughter in order to get him to do what he wants. And
no shit, he's an alien.
And
to him, he's more like ants.
And Goro Mutsumi, his persona is very good as this alien. He just has this facial expression on him that just goes to show, I give no fucks. I'm slimefully evil. You will do what I say or you will die. Serious question, did the simians invent slim suits? Fuck if I know. So anyway, Goro Mutsumi does a very good job as the simian leader. And the simians overall, they're pretty badass. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pro number 5 is the score. This was Jun Fukuda's last Godzilla movie, at least to my knowledge. Or not Jun, well, yeah, it was Jun Fukuda's last Godzilla movie. It was also Masaru Sato's last Godzilla movie that he scored for. And what a movie to go out on. This movie has a fantastic score.
It's fucking brilliant.
It's jazzy. It's dark. It's mysterious. It's happy. It's dark. I said that already, but it's gloomy. It's uplifting. It is fantastic. In my opinion,
my favorite track is probably when Mechagodzilla is revealed.
Dun 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 dun
Dun
dun dun dun dun dun dun.
Love that.
Dun 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 dun. Love it. Yep, love it.
You know what this too? Another thing I love about this film. Looking at it now, it reminds me of an Inspector Gadget episode. And in a good way. Because I loved Inspector Gadget as a kid, and it just kind of had that same feel to it. You know? Like, I love that. And even the music, it sounds like something from Inspector Gadget.
Dun 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 dun.
You know Inspector Gadget was Canadian?
That doesn't surprise me.
Exactly. It's a good Canadian show.
So yes, the score for this being Masaru Sato's last Godzilla movie, man, one hell of a way to go out. Good job, man.
Yeah, and also, Omega Picture, please don't bring up King of the Apes. That was a terrible show.
I have to agree with Sean. This might be Masaru Sato's best Godzilla score. Hands down.
I agree, too.
So let's see. 1, 2, 3. Pro number 6 is the production values for this film. The alien base specifically, very well constructed. It's very 70s, but in a good way. Like you said about the Inspector Gadget theme. It's very 70s in a good way. It looks campy, but it also looks kind of feasible. Because it's a hidden base stored inside a cave. And one thing I really like, this may sound really, really simple, but the cave wall is disguised to be the alien's base door. And to open it, they have to open up a stalactite, which they open, and they press a button. I actually really like that. It's simple, but it's clever. Because who the hell would think to break off a piece of the stalactite to open up to get inside the base? I really like the simian base in this movie. I think it's very well constructed. It looks great. It doesn't look rushed or it doesn't look cheap. It just looks really cool, and overall the rest of the production values look really good too. This movie looks like it had a bigger budget certainly than the previous movie. That's for damn sure.
How long did it take to shit this one?
Huh?
How long did it take to shit this one? Because I think like what? Godzilla vs. Megalon was shot in like 3 weeks.
How long did it take to shit this one?
Shoot.
Shit?
Shoot.
Shit. Gotcha.
Like a bullet. Shoot. Like a gun.
Like a turd? I don't know. It probably was done in just a couple of months.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the production values for this movie are great. 4, 5, 6. Pro number 7 is the special effects.
Oh, they look great.
Special effects are so top notch in this movie. Teryoshi Nakano was having a blast. Get it?
Yeah, they were probably having a lot of fun on this one.
Teryoshi Nakano was just allowed to fucking let loose with the special effects in this movie. Hang on. Did anyone else find it funny when one of the simians went overboard and you hear his scream? Anyway.
Oh, would have been great. Do a special edition. The only special edition is they have the Wilhelm scream. Ow!
Lizard Boy says, hello, and they are... Hang on. Hello, and they are great in all those explosions. Yeah, Teryoshi Nakano is having a total blast with this movie.
Explosions in this are great. I love that. Like,
yeah.
This is like if 70s Michael Bay directed this movie.
And he was actually good.
Yeah, exactly. This is Michael Bay's Godzilla.
Well, I actually think Michael Bay was good in his early days. Anyway, that's a different story. But anyway, so the special effects are great. The monster costumes are very well constructed. Mechagodzilla is probably the best looking suit in this movie. King Caesar looks all right. The Godzilla suit looks fine. It doesn't look distracting like it did in the previous film. But Mechagodzilla suit looks great. My only minor complaint... It is very 70s, but also in a good way. But my only minor complaint is that it doesn't really have the shiny metallic look.
Yeah, it looks a little too more like it with silver spray paint.
Yeah, a little bit. But other than that, when Michael Bay does R-rated stuff, he's not that bad. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. But anyway,
I'll put this up very quickly. Pearl Harbor Steaks. I'm sorry, that movie's horrendous.
I like John Voight as FDR.
I'll admit, I do like Armageddon. I like the first and third Transformers movies. I thought those were good.
We're not talking about Michael Bay right now.
True.
So anyway, the special effects of this movie are great. The explosions are great. The monster costumes are great. The sets are great, especially the Okinawa set. That looks really cool. Although and also the oil refinery. That is very well constructed, too.
I'm surprised nobody got lit on fire on that set.
Yeah, lots of explosions, lots of fire, lots of sparks, lots of lights. It is a fantastic-looking set. It's a shame that the fight there is a little too short, but whatever. It's still awesome. And that move leads me to the last pro that I have. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The monster fights in this movie are so freaking cool.
Oh, they're great. They're great.
But
one thing I do want to point out, too, what I do like, in the beginning of it, when you don't know it's Mechagodzilla, they were smart enough to use the actual real Godzilla suit for the beginning of it. And if you notice it really once the metal's peeled off, you'll notice there's a suit change. But it's smart that they actually did that, where they made it where, that they used the real Godzilla suit for those first few bits of the film.
Yeah. I when I was a kid, I knew instantly that wasn't that really wasn't Godzilla, because you can clearly hear Mechagodzilla's roar coming out.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I can't. That's my best Mechagodzilla impression. That's more better.
It's a metallic shrieking sound.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the monster fights in this movie, they're very, very good. The only exception, this is the only one I don't like, is Mechagodzilla versus Anguirus. I just kind of think it's unnecessary, honestly.
It was kind of like a little throw in. I'll add one more.
Oh, apparently KPF thought my Mechagodzilla. The fight at the refinery between Godzilla and Godzilla, then Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, very entertaining, very energetic, very bombastic.
Probably one of my favorite fights in the entire series.
My only issue is that it's a little too short for my taste. Yeah. Mechagodzilla versus King Caesar, it's entertaining, but I just think King Caesar gets his ass kicked way too quickly.
Yeah, I mean, for a monster that was said to be a prophecy and built up so much, it kind of sucks.
I'll get to that in a minute. And then, of course, there's the Grand Royal Rumble that is Caesar and Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Oh my god. It is so awesome. So freaking awesome. Monster fights in this movie are so entertaining. Again, with the exception of Mechagodzilla versus Anguirus, I mean, there's probably some people out there who like it. I mean, if you do, that's fine. I don't really. But the monster fights in this movie kick so much ass. So with all this good stuff to say about this movie, are there any cons? I have two.
Okay.
One, and this one's pretty minor because despite me having this issue with this movie, it's not a huge problem, though it is something that I do wish wasn't here. I think this movie is a tad too short.
Really?
It's 84 minutes long. It doesn't feel like it's 84 minutes long because you're entertained the whole time. But, excuse me, one minor issue that I have with Mechagodzilla is that he's not really on screen all that much. He only has maybe 8 minutes of screen time in the whole movie.
And honestly, here's something I want to bring up two cons I have. Well, the first one's very short, and it's obvious the dubbing is terrible, but you know what?
Yes.
At this point, it's such a staple of the series, you can have fun with that, and you actually kind of forget it's there, at some point. You're just focused on the story so much that even if it's in English dub, it doesn't really matter. My only other problem is that after the whole oil refinery scene and Godzilla retreats to the sea, at that point, the pacing is a little off. I will admit. It
does kind of drag at that point, just a little bit. But for me, I don't really mind it because, like I said, it turns into a spy movie, so the slower pace does kind of fit. But I will admit, towards the end of it, you get kind of antsy, just waiting for the monsters to show up again. Thankfully, they do, and that fixes it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think this movie's a little too short. I could have gone for it being maybe another 10 or 12 minutes longer. Get some more Mechagodzilla screen time, maybe a slightly longer refinery fight. But other than that, that's the first con that I have, and ultimately it is pretty minor. My biggest issue with this movie is King Caesar.
You know what? I want to go there and just say I agree with you there because here's the biggest issue I have. One,
he's fucking
as a
useless.
prophecy-filled monster that's been built up the whole time, he kind of sucks. One, because he gets his ass kicked, but two, I'm sorry, that design is terrible.
It looks pretty fucking ridiculous. I don't mind the expressive ears.
Yeah, here's the thing. He's supposed to be a lion god. Why the fuck does he look like a jackalope? Why the fuck does he looks more like a really possessed rabbit than he does a lion.
I don't mind the design. I actually think the design, it's a nice mix of a dragon, a wolf, and a lion. I like the roars. It's very growly, very gutturally. I do like that. I like the really expressive ears.
I hate the ears.
I don't mind this because I like the scene where when King Caesar first wakes up, he's roaring, he's making his entrance. Then he turns and he sees Mechagodzilla and his ears stand up. Like, whoa, what the fuck? I like that. I mean, obviously he can't do much with the eyes because they don't move, But another way of showing expression is through ears. And animals, especially like canines and dogs and such, they use their ears a lot.
It would have been one of those things where I would have dropped the canine part of it and kept the lion and dragon part of it. Because I think the issue I have is that I think the ears are just too cartoony. What I would have done if I had to redesign King Caesar, I'd keep the dragon and lion aspects, but I'd give him a lion's mane. I'd make him give him a full-blown lion's mane. And I think that would have actually looked a little better.
To each his own. That would have been cool too. Another big issue I have with King Caesar, he doesn't really have any energy attacks. Actually, he doesn't have any energy attacks because his re-channel eye beam that doesn't count. For me, that doesn't count.
The only thing his powers are mostly in terms of he's a monster.
He's agile. He's agile.
Strength, but even then, he's not a match for Mechagodzilla. He's just a monster that just has some incredible strength with them. He's one of those ones that rely on that instead of energy attacks. And yeah, I don't know if they have, because I've never really watched Final Wars in its entirety. But do they ever rectify that in Final Wars where he has better powers?
King Caesar is a purely melee combatant. However, in Final Wars, they showcase that he's more of a martial artist.
Okay.
So that's kind of cool.
Because he's part lion, because he's part feline and part dragon, I guess you could say he's the real crouching tiger, hidden dragon. Think about it.
God damn it.
He crouches like a tiger, and he hides like a dragon.
He growls like a tiger, too.
Yeah, he is the real crouching tiger, hidden dragon.
But I just don't like King Caesar. I think he's...
better build-up if it was King Kong or something.
Maybe, but...
Oh, shit, it's a well-known monster.
I mean, if King Caesar... I don't have an issue initially with King Caesar getting his ass kicked at a certain point, but here's my issue with it. It happens way too quickly. I would have much preferred if King Caesar, he gained the upper hand over Mechagodzilla for a while at first in the fight, but then Mechagodzilla slowed... Because he's a robot... And King Caesar is just an animal that only has so much energy. They kind of could have gone a Mecha Kong and King Kong route where, to quote Paul Frees, my Kong won't tire. They could have gone that routine, but no. King Caesar gets his ass kicked. And also in the final fight with King Caesar and Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, he's just kind of quickly shoved to the side. And Godzilla does most of the fighting. It's still entertaining, but just King Caesar sucks. I'm sorry, King Caesar just fucking sucks. Granted, I'm certain that King Caesar has his fans, but just for me, he's just doesn't do nothing for me.
You know what would have been a great move? Because obviously he's a melee monster. You know what would have been cool? Because he is part lion, if he was able to have his claws extend or something, have a bit more of an extension on his claws, and maybe claw at Godzilla or Mechagodzilla, kind of slice him up a bit.
That would have been cool, yeah.
Claws could cut metal.
So with all that said about Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, hang on, let me find a pen. Here it is. Let me just change something real quick. So, final thoughts on Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. This is a fantastic Godzilla movie. It's very entertaining. It's very, very, very well made. It's very enjoyable. If you do not like this movie, why? That's all I can say is why. One of my favorite Godzilla movies, one that I absolutely enjoy watching every single time I put it in. Can't get enough of it. Fantastic Godzilla movie.
I agree. In my opinion, this makes probably one of the top 5 best Godzilla movies for me. Definitely in the top 10, for sure, but probably in the top 5 even. It is action-packed, it is funny, it's entertaining, it's suspenseful, great music, great effects. It's one of the best. And it came out at the right time when Godzilla was just going through a bit of a shit craze. but then they decided, let's cut the bullshit and make a good movie again. It's kind of a shame that once they started getting good again, they decided to cancel the whole thing at that point. But honestly, I think as a second place finale to the Showa era, it does the job perfectly, and it kind of, if they had stopped there, I would have been okay with it, honestly. If they had just stopped there and they just said, yeah, we're not doing it anymore for a little bit. It would have been fine, but obviously you have Terror of Mechagodzilla that came out. That was still pretty good. So
and for the last Jun Fukuda Godzilla movie, one hell of a way to go out. That's for damn sure.
I'm gonna probably give this film about a 9.7 out of 10 because it is one of the best films, minus a few pacing problems and some minor characters, but it's still one of the best Godzilla movies. One of my personal favorites.
Yep. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. What keeps me from giving it a perfect 10 is the 0.5 for the film being too short and the 0.5 for King Caesar. But if I can get around those, this is a fantastic Godzilla movie. So I think a 9 out of 10, very solid score, very solid movie.
Kaiju Psycho Films, go fucking watch it. For those who haven't seen it and are starting to get into Godzilla, this is one to definitely start off with. I would agree. If you're going to start with any of them, this is one of the ones to start with, and you will have a blast.
Indeedy do. So, with all that motherfucking said, Jack, pimp yourself out.
Alright, guys, if you want, go find my channel. It's under youtube.com, BigJackFilms. You can also check out our website, BigJackFilms.com. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Heads up, I will be going to G-Fest 25 to screen for a two-day special screening of a King Kong remake. You can check me out there. I'm going for the whole weekend. It's going to be a blast. Next up for me in terms of reviews, I've got a crossover coming up with the Media Hunter, where we are going to be...
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
We're going to be reviewing the extended TV cut of the 1976 King Kong. And as for myself, the next line of projects on the go is the Jurassic Park Legacy reviews, which is the continuation of my 2015 marathon. So with all that said, check me out. I hope Nick is able to put my links in the description below. If not, you can probably find me via just search engine. But yeah, I will, until the next video, guys, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys later. This is Big Jack Films signing out.
Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends, and look forward to, hopefully tomorrow, as I also have my special guest that I have planned for that review as well, as we tackle the big, grand, epic finale, not really, but still, it's a good movie, to the Showa Godzilla series, Terror of Mechagodzilla. And I will see you guys in the next one, and go out and discover some space titanium metal that is totally from space. And I will see you in the next one. And I don't support G-Fest.
Godzilla!
And I don't support G-Fest.